These are questions, an interesting one, isn't it? Because he's unlikely to do 90, he does 45 and then has a bit of a run at half-time the other night, so we'll give him 50.
Good for him, yeah.
Yeah, we'll give him 50 minutes there, but you'd be shocked if he did 90. You don't really want to take your superstar striker off on 75 if the game's at 0-0 or 1 each, which has been the case in a couple of our games, obviously recently, the Burnley one being an example, especially when you haven't then got the other fella to bring on for him. I thought Dan's look sharp the other night, but it's a big shout to take Isak off and bring Jayden Dan's on 70 if it is 0-0 or 1 each. But it'd feel a bit mad if you didn't start him, so I don't know, how do you sort of pull all that together in your head?
Yeah, I think you've obviously got to start him, haven't you? As you say, you know, probably gets just shy of an hour. I think that the good thing for Liverpool, I mean, if this suspension to Ekitike was to happen, it's good that Chiesa's come on and you know, he's got 2 assists the other night, should have got a third, played really well, was really lively. We know he can play all across the front line, and including as a bit of number 9, so you know, maybe that's an option. He's in a good moment. You know, he spoke after the game the other day and said, you know, last year he wasn't up to kind of the standard of what was required, but now he feels he is, and he can contribute. You know, obviously scored the goal against Bournemouth, but also you can see that Slot trusts him. I think he's played in every game really, hasn't he, in the league more or less. And we just didn't see that last season. So he is a tangible option now. I mean, when we spoke at the start of the season, I didn't think he was, because you just didn't know what to get from him. But I suppose the reason Liverpool kept him, whether it was their choice in the end or whatnot, but the reason he was still at the club is for moments like this when, you know, there isn't the first choice 2 strikers available. So if Isak is, you know, playing in, you know, 55, 60 minutes and it is 0-0, you might have to just ask Chiesa to go out there and do something. I'm not saying he's going to score the winner, but he's a busybody, isn't he? And he can make things happen. And that's exactly what they did at Burnley. That's, you know, they didn't play a great game at all really, but especially in the final third, it was quite frustrating. But you know, through, you know, when Frimpong came on, he just offered something different. It was his cross that wins the penalty. So I think just being busy in and around the final third in those kind of tight games, you know, they can give you a moment, whether it be a penalty, a free kick, a set piece, you know, a cross that deflects and you know, lands in a 6-yard box. So I think that probably will be the option. But I wondered how he would have played it before Southampton anyway, because you've got, you know, 3 away games this week, haven't you? And I think it would have been a lot to ask Isak to. It's how do you play it, because obviously Galatasaray to go over there, you know, with the travel that's been involved, and then play. But then you actually have to do 2 60s in a week. I mean, he said after the game that it wouldn't be until the October international break where Isak would really kind of have finished this pre-season he's doing. So he clearly is, you know, looking, his next step after this week is probably 75. But then obviously you've got those 2 huge games either side of Galatasaray. So I think regardless of Ekitike getting sent off, I think it's always going to be a bit of a conundrum of which striker started to 2 out of the 3 games. But as I say, the timing of Chiesa's performance the other night could be really vital now for Liverpool.
He's got to start in Isak?
I think probably, yeah. Although you do wonder, like, you know, around the hour mark, if he does start and he comes off, there's the prospect of it being very flat after that point. We saw that in the last time we faced them actually, in the Community Shield. We took Ekitike out from the hour and it just died. So you could look at it as, like, you know, around the hour mark, what's the worst case scenario? Probably a 0-0 at that point really, and at that point then you can bring Isak on and maybe he wins the game for you or something. So there's different ways of looking at it, probably a lot of sports science in there that I don't really know so much about. So I don't know, I think he obviously gets a lot of minutes, but it's whether you want him to finish the game for you or start the game for you. It's difficult.
Yeah, especially when Liverpool have been finishing games so well.
I mean, he has got loads of options though. I mean, even last year at City, he played with no striker. He did Jones as the Boslai, kind of the 2 false nines. So I think Slot has got, you know, a few, not aces I wouldn't call them, but he's got a few plans up his sleeve. And obviously Palace is a team in the 17-game run. Is it 17 games? I think they're unbeaten, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be fair, I think they've...
The double tens are decent show.
I think he's been looking at ways to get Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch and Wirtz on the pitch at the same time. And
this could be it.
Exactly, yeah. But Szoboszlai's been doing it at right back. That can't keep going, especially when you've got 2 right backs now fit. We saw Wirtz do a little bit on the left as a sub recently, I think. But this could be a way in which you get all 4 in the middle of the park. Maybe Gakpo on the left and Salah on the right. A normal right back in place, you know. So there's different options that we can use, like. But in terms of having like a proper 9 for the whole game, you're probably going to have to compensate somewhere where Wirtz does it for a bit or Chiesa does it for a bit. But Kea's will score a few, I think, if he gets the shirt.
With the back three as well, it's a good shout to go with a false nine or a 10, whatever you want to call it, because that creates space for the wide players to come inside and maybe have a bit of fortune that way. But the thing I was going to say is, this 17 game unbeaten run that Palace have been on, Liverpool played them 3 or 4 times, so Slot will have an idea.
Yeah.
Obviously they played in the Community Shield earlier this year. Obviously played the final game of the season. So he will have plenty of kind of sample size to look at and work out what he likes about Palace, how he can maybe get one over on them and stuff. So I suppose if there was one team to maybe have a bit of a selection headache against, it's one you played 3 times in about 3 months, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good shout, isn't it? The best managers work out other teams, and he is one of the best managers. And still the only proper league game he's lost is that Forest one, where I think he admitted afterwards he didn't realise how good they were. Well, he knows how good Palace are, and so he'd be ready for it.